Reality is not destiny, it's a challenge. We are not doomed to accept it as it is. Eduardo Galeano said that, quoted by interviewer Scott Whitmer. Galeano died just this past year in April 2015. Al Jazeera called him a literary giant of the Latin American left. He challenged the status quo with leftist and socialist commentaries as a political cartoonist, author, and editor. In his speech, We Say No, Galeano delivered a passionate call to action for his fellow left-wing activists and intellectuals, with both resistance to negative things and the advancement and protection of things that are and were positive to a generally leftist point of view. The political climate in Chile in 1988 was very oppressed under the military rule of General Augusto Pinochet. At a conference to promote Chilean democracy, Eduardo Galeano delivered his speech, We Say No. Today I will be analyzing the rhetorical situation of this speech, starting first with the occasion and moving on to the audience, speaker, and finally, the speech itself. As I mentioned before, the speech was delivered in 1988 at a conference in Chile to promote democracy called Chile Creates. With information from the Washington Post, I learned that Augusto Pinochet was the president of Chile at the time, having ruled since a military coup overthrew the democratic government 15 years earlier. The Washington Post also quoted Pinochet as strongly opposing democracy, saying it was too easy to infiltrate and destroy. The BBC, reporting from a Chilean document released in 2011 by the government, states that almost 38,000 people were subjected to torture and abuse under Pinochet's rule, with about 3,000 killed or disappeared. The conference, Chile Creates, was meant to incite democratic fervor in time for the 1988 plebiscite, in which citizens voted on whether to keep Pinochet in office for another 8 years. After the years of repression, left-wing activists jumped at the chance to promote democracy in Chile. According to the book Citizens of the World, the audience Galeano spoke to was largely made up of other left-wing thinkers. They already agreed with Galeano and were primed to accept his words as truth. His purpose, therefore, was not to change any minds, but rather to impress the importance of saying no upon his audience, as referenced in the title of the speech. I will delve into what he wanted to say no to later on. Rather than persuasion, his goal was to boost the opinions and the emotions that his audience already possessed. The conference took place only 3 months before the plebiscite vote, so the audience and speaker alike felt a sense of urgency. Now I want to talk about Galeano himself as a speaker. All biographical facts are sourced from the Citizens of the World book. Though not from Chile originally, Galeano was a powerful advocate for all South American people. His home country was Uruguay. He started as a political cartoonist at 14, then became a journalist and later an editor. He stayed in Uruguay until 1973, when he was forced out by the government and fled to Argentina. He stayed there until the political climate turned against him in Argentina as well in 1975. He fled to Spain then, after the Videla military junta in Argentina ordered him to be killed. He was forced to stay out of Uruguay for over 10 years. He had a personal history of many years that involved political resistance to oppressive regimes, so it makes sense that he was a strong voice in support of ending Pinochet's rule in Chile with his speech. Now, the text of his speech I also sourced from the Citizens of the World book. We Say No, as a whole, is a call for a fight against various negative forces, such as colonialism, militarism, and what he calls the culture of lies that penetrates Latin America and the whole world. But it's also saying yes, as he tells us in this quote. By saying no to dictatorships, and no to dictatorships disguised as democracies, we are saying yes to the struggle for true democracy. In saying no to a peace without dignity, we are saying yes to the sacred right of rebellion against injustice. Yes to human solidarity. Galeano uses pathos and appeal to our emotions to inspire a belief in his words. He pulls at us to, as he says, say yes to those ideals that he puts forth. Today, I have discussed and analyzed the rhetorical situation surrounding Eduardo Galeano's powerful speech entitled We Say No. The speech was delivered in Chile in 1988 at a critical crossroads for the future of the nation's politics, culture, and freedom from the Pinochet dictatorship. Looking back at that time period, I am happy to report that as a result of the plebiscite 3 months after the speech was delivered, Augusto Pinochet's term as president was not extended. He gave up the presidency in 1990, ending his dictatorship at 17 years. Today, the nation has a 15% poverty rate and about 6% unemployment, according to the CIA fact book, which is relatively low for the area. The return to democracy in Chile has been successful, helped along by Galeano's inspirational words. He and other left-wing thinkers propelled Chile towards democracy by giving them the inspiration they needed to vote Pinochet out of office and to improve democracy and living conditions in their nation. Thank you for watching.